The film is based on the story of a character named Stan, who burns down his home along with his dead father and takes a job as a carny with a traveling carnival. Stan is disturbed at how any man could sink to the level of performing as a geek. Clem explains that he seeks out alcoholic or drug-addicted men with troubled pasts, and lures them in with promises of a temporary job and opium-laced alcohol. He then uses their dependence until they sink into madness and depravity, thus creating a new geek. Stan also works with the clairvoyant act Madame Zeena and her alcoholic husband, Pete. He and Zeena warn Stan not to ever use these skills, otherwise people get hurt. Meanwhile, Stan becomes attracted to fellow performer Molly and approaches her with an idea for a two-person act away from the carnival. Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to review the 2021 American psychological thriller film, Nightmare Alley. Please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon, so you never miss my future videos. The film begins in the year 1939, when a man named Stanton or Stan Carlisle puts the dead body of his father on the floorboards of his home and burns it down. He leaves it all behind and takes a job as a carny with a traveling carnival. The first night before taking the job there, he goes inside the carnival without paying the ticket while the owner was noticing him. He later helps the owner, whose name is Clem, capture their featured geek who escaped his cage. The sight of the man living in squalor, biting off the heads of live chickens to appease the crowd, disturbs Stan tremendously. These geeks are alcoholics or drug-addicted men with troubled pasts, and Clem uses their addiction to offer them a temporary job. Once they started to depend on him, he physically and mentally abuses them until they sink into madness and depravity, which creates this savage sideshow attraction called a geek. We also find that Clem has moonshine he brews to keep some of the carnies under control. He keeps them in unmarked glass flasks next to boxes of wood alcohol, which could kill a man. Stan quickly finds himself part of Madame Zeena and her alcoholic husband Pete's clairvoyant act. Zeena and Pete use coded language to make it appear that she has extraordinary mental powers, which Pete eventually teaches to Stan. However, both he and Zeena warn Stan never to use these skills to make what they call a spook show, leading patrons on about dead loved ones. Also at the carnival is a performer named Molly, whom Stan becomes smitten with. He tells her about his idea for a two-person act that would get them out of the carnival. While intrigued, she doesn't say yes at first. When she does, it happens to be the night Pete has Stan get him some of Clem's alcohol. However, Stan accidentally, or not so accidentally, brings him the poisonous wood alcohol. The next morning, Zeena finds Pete dead and Stan and Molly leave the carnival behind. 2 years later, Stan is now the Great Stanton. His successful psychic act performs for Chicago's wealthiest citizens with Molly as his assistant. By now, the two have mastered Zeena and Pete's code and are making quite a bit of money. One night though, psychologist Dr. Lilith Ritter interrupts their act in an attempt to expose their coded system. Stan has to use his skills of cold reading to make Ritter look like the fool and not him. Ritter is there at the behest of the wealthy Judge Kimball, whom he hired to test Stan. Now that Stan has passed, Kimball pays him a large sum of money to allow him and his wife, Felicia, to communicate with their dead son. Stan agrees even though Molly objects to the spook show. Ritter invites Stan to her office even though she knows he's a con man, but he intrigues her anyhow. Stan learns that she records all her sessions with her clients and has a lot of sensitive information about various members of Chicago's social elite. He suggests the two join forces to make a ton of money, to which she says that she will help, but not for money. She just wants to record some therapy sessions with him where he must tell the truth. These sessions reveal Stan's guilt over Pete's death, his hatred of his alcoholic father, whom he killed at the start of the film, and that Stan never drinks because of him. Ritter's help with Stan's meeting with Kimball goes so well, that Kimball introduces him to a man named Ezra Grindle. He has guilt over forcing his young girlfriend Dory to have a miscarriage. Ritter warns Stan that Grindel is extremely dangerous, but Stan grifts the man anyhow. The pressure though starts to get to him and he begins drinking, even though he never drinks. However, Ritter doesn't want to help Stan with information about Grindel because his men, or Grindel himself, have attacked her before leaving a large scar down the front of her chest. Stan makes a wax impression of the key that unlocks the cabinet to all her recorded sessions, which Ritter may or may not have noticed him do, and he returns later to get the necessary information on Grindel. Meanwhile, Molly's been quite unhappy in Chicago and with Stan himself. When Grindel demands Stan conjure Dory in the flesh or else, Stan's suggestion that Molly pretends to be Dory is too much for her. She leaves him a Dear John letter and heads to the bus station. Stan follows her to a men's room at the station and begs her to stay. She only agrees after Stan cries to her not to leave him like everyone else in his life. She does as she's told and shows up in Grindel's garden at 8 p.m. on the spot. Stan had planned to make Grindel get on his knees and pray when she appeared, and when his eyes were closed, she'd sneak off. However, Grindel runs to her instead and hugs her waist. Molly panics and says she can't do it. Grindel comes to his senses and figures out he's been cheated. He grabs Molly and slaps her. Meanwhile, Grindel's bodyguard Anderson hears that police found Judge Kimball and his wife dead from a murder-suicide, which was due to Stan promising the Kimballs that they would be reunited with their dead son in death. Anderson runs out to the garden to check on Grindel. Back in the garden, Grindel threatens Stan and Molly, to which Stan snaps and beats him to death. As they head back to their car, Anderson catches up and shoots at them. Stan backs the car over him and then drives forward over to leave him dead. Once they get some distance behind them, Stan pulls the car into an alley and smashes the windows to make it look like someone stole the car. Molly slaps him and leaves him forever. Stan goes to Ritter for help but learns that she's been scamming him the whole time. All the money he's made from his con game in Chicago, which he kept in Ritter's safe. He learns that she switched the stacks of $100 bills with $1 bills, leaving him almost nothing for his troubles. She tells him that he's just a petty criminal and she will use the recordings of her sessions with him to prove to authorities that he's a mentally disturbed person if he tries to implicate her in any of the crimes. Stan snaps for good when she shoots him in the ear. He tries to strangle her to death, but she's had enough time to call the cops on him first. The cops arrive before he kills her and he then flees as they try to arrest him. Stan makes it to a rail transport station and hides in one of the rail cars carrying chickens. The police don't spot him and the train leaves, taking him to safety. Stan wanders around for some undetermined amount of time, years maybe, and he accepts his life as an alcoholic hobo. After he gives away the only remaining possession he has left in life, his father's watch, Stan finds a new carnival and asks for a job. The owner turns him away because he smells like piss, but before he lets Stan go, he offers him a drink. He then says he's got a temporary job for a geek if he's up to it. Stan accepts the offer, saying, "Mister, I was born for it." He laughs and then cries as the film ends. The movie gives us a lesson that, what a man sows, so shall he reap. The choices he will make and the sins he will commit, will not only shape his present but also his future. Stan abused his weak father and later killed him, betrayed his girlfriend and all those who loved him because he had the illusion of having the power to control everything. He gets so blindly passionate about his hustle that he ignores the warnings of his loved ones. Ambitiously, he decides to fly too high, too close to the sun, only to find himself hitting rock bottom in the end. Through it all, Stan feels like he's in power, and yet he only has the illusion of power until the rug is pulled out from under him. Thanks for watching.